There's a temptation to think of ethics as being only about dilemmas, where you have a seemingly intractable right versus right decision or less wrong versus less wrong decision. And those certainly are there, to be sure. But one of the things that I like to teach to my students, and one of the main purposes of that opening exercise of storytelling about their own experiences, is to draw on a wisdom that Aristotle taught us some thousands of years ago. And that is, most of our ethical knowledge are things that we're so accustomed to, we're so used to, that we're barely aware of them. They're just who we are as people, what our characters are. The story that I tell to my students when I'm giving them that assignment is one that I used back when I was a freshman in college, and a similar assignment was given to me. And I told a story about my father, of an action that he took with a person who was really down on his luck and needed some help. And my dad did an extraordinary work for him for 5 years, called him every morning for 5 years to check on the guy to see how he was doing, just because he wanted to make sure the guy knew that someone cared about him. And I told my dad late in his life that I used that story. He was completely mystified. He said, "Why would you make a story about that? Why would you tell that? Anybody would have done that." I said, "Well, one, I don't know if anybody would have done that, Dad. But second, you didn't even notice how ethical it was because it wasn't something that you wrestled with. It was not something that you struggled with. It was just something about who you are." And there's a lot of ethical wisdom in that. And one of the things I want the students to recognize is there's a lot of ethical knowledge that they have in their lives already, that if they look at it, teaches them how to even be more ethical. Because once they recognize that how they treat others, how they're honest in their business transactions, even to the point of painfulness. A lot of my stories deal with people who have uncovered some sort of an accounting error, and they have let people know about it rather than to hide it. Those kinds of things that weren't struggles, it was just about who they are, gives them a foundation for making further decisions once they are clearer about what their moral values are. And so one of the purposes of the exercise simply is to be more aware of who you are, because those values can be utilized with other decisions down the road as well.